Devotion is an atmospheric, psychological horror game created and published by Red Candle Games. The game follows Fung Yu as he navigates unsettling and distorted versions of his apartment while searching for clues about his missing daughter Mei Shin. Set in 1980s Taiwan, the game explores various themes of culture, religion, family dynamics, and the real cost of devotion to these values. Devotion's eerie storyline, along with its real-world controversies, make it quite an unforgettable game to play. And for this video, I will be covering some psychological themes presented in the characters and the storyline. As always, this video will be full of spoilers, so keep that in mind. And if you enjoy this content, remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. For those who have been enjoying this content, I want to thank you for helping me to pass the 10,000 subscriber count. These past 2 years with this channel have felt so rewarding, and it's viewers like you who have encouraged me to keep going. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. So, sit back, get cozy, and join me as we explore Devotion's psychological horror at midnight. Initially released on Steam in February 2019, Devotion was soon removed from the platform following a controversy involving an in-game poster referencing a meme that insulted China's President Xi Jinping. This discovery led to a flood of negative reviews on the Steam page, resulting in a mostly negative rating. The developers, citing technical issues, removed the game and issued a formal apology. It wasn't until March 2021, after 2 years, that Red Candle Games re-released Devotion to their own digital storefront. This controversy highlights the long-standing cultural and political tensions between China and Taiwan, so instead I'll focus on some of the inspirations behind the game. In an interview with Eurogamer, the Red Candle Games team shared their efforts to balance an accurate depiction of 1980s Taiwan domestic life with a terrifying yet playable psychological horror experience. From apartment designs and immersive sound effects to various furniture and artifacts, every element was intentionally crafted to reflect that era. Take, for example, the apartment layout that was inspired by Taipei's Nanjichang apartment, and the in-game children's talent show Rainbow Stage, which drew inspiration from an old Taiwanese TV show called Five Lights Award. The development team also took inspiration from games like Silent Hill's PT, Layers of Fear, What Remains of Edith Finch, and Outlast, which helped them create the game's spooky environment. After all, the process for creating Devotion was a new and challenging task for Red Candle Games, as they were initially only familiar with creating a 2D scroller and thus devoted lots of research into creating a meaningful first-person 3D game. So, despite the initial controversy that led to the game's temporary unavailability, Devotion's return has sparked renewed appreciation for its unique and immersive horror experience. And with that, let's get into the game itself. I'll provide a summary of each chapter just in case you've either never heard of it or would like a refresher, but feel free to skip to this section if you just want the analysis. Chapter 1, known as the Doorways chapter, begins with the protagonist Fung Yu in his apartment's living room, watching TV and having a casual conversation with his wife, Gong Li Fang. The scene takes a turn when Li Fang asks about their daughter, Mei Shin, causing Fung Yu's vision to blur and a recurring theme in the game centered around the question, "Where's Mei Shin?" Fung Yu then looks at his hands as the apartment scene transforms into something dark and sinister, leaving him alone in front of a static-filled TV. In this darker version of the apartment, Fung Yu can now explore the kitchen and the living/dining room area and pick up a couple of photos. Exiting the apartment, he encounters a door labeled 1987. Entering this door brings Fung Yu back to his apartment, but now with different furnishings and more lighting. This pattern of entering different iterations of his family's apartment, spanning a 7-year period in the 1980s, recurs throughout the game. As Fung Yu explores further, entering the bedroom leads to a surreal scene before he's directed to another door labeled 1980. The lack of furniture suggests this is when the family first acquired the apartment and was in the process of moving in. Fung Yu collects objects and places them correctly to gradually furnish the apartment. He then proceeds to a door labeled 1986. finding himself in a fully furnished version of his apartment with porcelain doll versions of his family. Artifacts and notes hint at the family dynamic and their influence on Mei Shin to become a famous child star. Returning to the hallway, Fung Yu discovers a screenplay written by him and wall drawings hinting at an impending illness for Mei Shin. Entering another iteration of the apartment, this time labeled 1985, provides more context, revealing that Mei Shin was hospitalized after a school incident. In her bedroom, Fung Yu finds a porcelain version of Mei Shin in a hospital-like room with a diagnostic report showing no physical ailments, which adds to the mystery. The rest of the apartment transforms into a doctor's office, where Fung Yu receives a call from mentor Heuh, who claims to have the answers he's seeking. A discovered screenwriting script implies Fung Yu will seek alternative solutions for his daughter's illness from this mentor. In another 1987 apartment iteration, Fung Yu watches Mei Shin on a children's talent show before the TV turns to static. Approaching the family portrait, he sees what appears to be a religious deity behind it, and he finds himself trapped in a bathroom-like room that slowly fills with a red liquid, threatening to drown him. In Chapter 2, titled Nostalgia, Fung Yu encounters 4 doorways in an apartment, with only 3 accessible initially, marked with the years 1980, 1985, and 1986, each signifying pivotal moments in the Du family's history. Fung Yu's objective is to gather memory fragments to eventually reach a place known as the Flawless Present. Objects found in one apartment often help solve puzzles in another, which gradually reveals the family's story. A code from one apartment unlocks a wardrobe in another, leading Fung Yu to discover a playable children's book containing an origami tulip made by Mei Shin using the paper from his rejected manuscripts. As he explores different rooms, Fung Yu uncovers parts of a red outfit that was Li Fang's signature style as a former actress, reflecting her longing to return to the stage. A nightmare narrated by Mei Shin shows the growing strain on the family due to Fung Yu's trust in mentor Heuh to cure her. Yet another scene depicts Mei Shin being groomed from birth to be a child star. Towards the end of the chapter, Fung Yu is pursued by a nightmarish woman, implied to be his wife, Li Fang, until he escapes into an elevator. Inside, he hears an interview where Li Fang discusses her return to show business, her growing resentment towards Fung Yu, and her desire to take Mei Shin away once she finishes her next film. The chapter concludes with Fung Yu entering the door to the Flawless Present. Chapter 2, which is the longest chapter in the game, provides a lot more context about the strained family relationships. Li Fang, longing to return to acting, grows increasingly resentful of Fung Yu's fruitless spending, yet despite seeking advice from various people, she's told to simply behave as a housewife and serve her family. Mei Shin, frustrated by missing school and activities due to her illness and singing commitments, dumps her medicine into a fish tank, killing the arowana fish Fung Yu had purchased in hopes of appearing wealthy. She takes up creating origami tulips to manage her anxiety, which seems to be exacerbated by her father's pressure to become a child star. As for Fung Yu, he becomes more erratic as his screenwriting career falters, and as a result, he lashes out at his family and falsely accuses Li Fang of being an extravagant spender while insisting she should focus on being the family caretaker, despite their lack of income due to his own failed career. His delusions about his family are prominent in the first 2 chapters, but begin to unravel as the game progresses. In the 3rd chapter, Devotion, Fung Yu is seated in the living room watching Mei Shin's performance on the children's talent TV show as Li Fang comments from the kitchen how Fung Yu never misses a performance of hers. Standing up transforms the scene into a void space and a static-filled TV, the calendar displaying 1987 as the year. Entering a doorway, Mei Shin's voice echoes, asking for her mother, implying Li Fang left for the family by this point to continue pursuing her acting career. Surreal scenes of Mei Shin's anxious thoughts flash by until it switches to Fung Yu's perspective once more as he reads a medical report confirming that what Mei Shin suffers from is psychological, as no physical ailments were observed. Feeling betrayed by the medical system since he believes doctors are labeling Mei Shin as a lunatic, Fung Yu instead seeks help from mentor Heuh. The rest of the chapter shows Fung Yu entering and navigating a spiritual realm, with mentor Heuh instructing him to follow the guidance of Sugu Guanyin to find Mei Shin's spirit, eerily passing through areas with suffering, sinful souls, walking beside a mysterious narrator giving a mysterious analogy, and experiencing a barrage of Mei Shin voices pleading to him. Fung Yu eventually faces the purported manifestation of Sugu Guanyin, where the soul of Mei Shin is allegedly trapped. Mentor Heuh tells him he must make an oath to the deity to free Mei Shin, which involves horrific self-mutilation of his eye, tongue, and hand. Chapter 4, Homecoming, places Du Fung Yu in a small apartment resembling mentor Heuh's office, where he finds a tape recorder and listens to recordings of past clients. Each client shares their stories of seeing no positive results despite praying to and donating money to Sugu Guanyin. A mother talks about her son failing his exams, a mistress wishes for her lover's wife to divorce him, and a man recounts his father trusting the religion's rituals over chemotherapy and dying as a result. These stories mirror Fung Yu's own misplaced faith in Sugu Guanyin. After leaving the apartment, Fung Yu heads to another entrance labeled 1987. On the way, he recalls mentor Heuh's instructions to cure Mei Shin by locking her in the bathroom for 7 days, soaking in a tub filled with wine and snake oil. This ritual, meant to heal her, tragically results in Mei Shin's death, a truth Fung Yu has been struggling to accept throughout the game. Entering the apartment, Fung Yu opens the bathroom door and crosses an endless void, guided by origami tulips as Mei Shin narrates the final scenes. During Li Fang's absence, hoping to return to her career, Fung Yu stopped taking Mei Shin to the doctor and instead followed mentor Heuh's guidance to cure her mysterious illness. Mei Shin, who had found solace in folding origami tulips to manage her anxiety, tragically never shared this coping mechanism with her father and ultimately succumbed to his misguided actions.
病好后，我要继续练唱，变得更厉害，唱得更好。然后，总有一天，一定会实现我的生日愿望，变成大明星，让爸爸妈妈一起坐在电视机前面看我唱歌，大家开开心心的聚在客厅。我好喜欢那个时候哦。
Devotion is a game that reflects the destructive nature of blind faith, the conflict between personal desires and familial duties, and the impact of societal expectations. The story itself highlights the various ways devotion can manifest, whether through love, ambition, faith, or desperation, and the potentially tragic consequences of such unwavering commitment. Devotion paints an uncomfortable picture of the lengths people will go to for those they love, and the tragic outcomes that can arise when devotion becomes obsession. Let's take a look at each character and explore what devotion meant for them. As the leader of a religious group devoted to the deity Sugu Guanyin, mentor Heuh has a minimal physical presence in the story, but a significant impact. Her advice convinced followers to donate practically their life savings in exchange for religious trinkets and rituals, the latter of which sometimes prove fatal for them and their families. Now, before I continue, I did want to note that Red Candle Games explained in an interview with Eurogamer that Sugu Guanyin was designed to represent a form of faith rather than any specific religion. Since they did note that their team is composed of multiple faith backgrounds, the role of Sugu Guanyin is likely to serve as an object of devotion in the game. It's unclear how mentor Heuh initially became involved with the religion or how she met Du Fung Yu, but she follows a pattern with her converts. When someone faces a hardship they can't overcome, mentor Heuh offers hope through devotion to Sugu Guanyin. She persuades them that their situation can improve if only they pray more, give more money, or perform specific rituals, which gives followers a sense of control over their circumstances. However, these efforts do not pay off. For example, a frustrated mother in the last chapter continues to pray and donate despite her son failing his exams. She believes that her devotion will lead to her son's success, ignoring other potential solutions like better tutoring or reducing his stress. Why did this happen, though? In the same interview with Eurogamer, Red Candle Games highlighted that in 1980s Taiwan, societal expectations were so high that people often sought supernatural guidance when real-life solutions were unavailable. This explains why the mother was convinced that seeking such guidance would help her son. But people also had a collective fear of mental illness, almost treating the subject and victims as taboo. And this might explain why Fung Yu was skeptical of Mei Shin's medical diagnosis and turned to Mentor Heuh. For Mentor Heuh, her ability to con people and convert them to her faith can be seen through the lens of undue influence. Psychology Today explains that cults exploit human vulnerabilities and use external influences to convince individuals that their cult has the answers. Fung Yu's desperation to cure Mei Shin made him vulnerable, and Mentor Heuh used her perceived authority to steer him away from doctors and towards her dangerous rituals. Fung Yu's devotion to curing Mei Shin led him to believe that with enough allegiance to Sigu Guanyin and adherence to the rituals, he could change her circumstances. However, circumstances are often beyond our control, and what truly matters is how we react to them. Believing that our efforts alone can change our fate is an illusion that can lead to misguided actions and devastating consequences. Gong Li Fang was a beloved actress and singer whose career was abruptly halted when her husband persuaded her to become a housewife. Her longing to return to show business is clear from the posters on their bedroom walls and personal items that recall her former life. Although she was a devoted wife and mother, her view of family life faltered as she watched Fung Yu descend into chaos. His once celebrated screenwriting skills became increasingly idealistic and detached from reality, with his latest script depicting a perfect family that marked the decline of his career. As the family faced financial difficulties, Li Fang grew increasingly worried about Fung Yu's irresponsible behavior. He squandered money on items meant to display wealth and fortune and on a shoddy religion. Li Fang sought advice from others, including a radio station and her mother, but received criticism and was told to support her husband blindly, as wives were expected to do. Gender equality was a significant struggle in Taiwan during the 1980s, as women fought to make their voices heard. The Awakening, a women's movement and magazine founded in 1982, aimed to promote gender equality and women's rights in a traditionally patriarchal society. The movement focused on raising awareness about issues such as domestic violence, sexual harassment, and gender discrimination in the workplace and education. It also advocated for legal reforms to protect women's rights and provide better support for women facing discrimination and abuse. This provides a glimpse into what Li Fang might have faced while living in that era, and that might have helped her give her the courage to leave her household. So eventually, Li Fang did decide to leave Fung Yu and return to show business. With no money of her own, she aimed to earn enough from her next film to take Mei Shin away from Fung Yu and start a new life. She dreamed of providing solely for herself and her daughter, breaking free from the societal mold of the time. Though she might have initially loved her life with her husband and daughter, the reality of their situation and Fung Yu's actions forced her to escape and later rescue her daughter from a dysfunctional environment. Through Fung Yu's eyes, however, Li Fang is often seen as a haunting figure, depicted as a ghostly apparition in a torn qipao dress, reminiscent of her glory days. She appears as a sickly, lanky figure, either jump-scaring Fung Yu, chasing him, or walking away, signaling abandonment. The developers at Red Candle Games expressed a desire to flesh out Gong Li Fang's character more, but despite this, her portrayal in the story paints an emotional picture of a woman devoted to her dreams and making difficult choices for a better future. This is showcased in her trademark song, Lady of the Pier, which reflects her longing and the game's narrative. The lyrics speak of a lover waiting at the pier, symbolizing Li Fang's hope for her family's return, or her dreams rescuing her. For those in love, don't ask her, would you devote yourself again? In another life, would you devote yourself again? Du Mei Shin is central to the story of devotion. Her parents doted on her and aimed for her to become the next television star, a destiny dictated by her father. This heavy expectation nearly crushed her. Overwhelmed, she collapses at school and is rushed to the hospital with tightness in her chest and heavy breathing. Despite multiple doctor visits yielding no answers, one diagnosis remains: psychiatric. Fung Yu, her father, rejects this, believing the doctors are labeling her a lunatic. Frantic and desperate for a solution, Fung Yu turns to mentor Heuh, who offers guidance and advice that initially seems to help Mei Shin. Trusting in mentor Heuh and the deity Sugu Guanyin, Fung Yu fails to realize that it's not the religion, but the act of folding origami tulips that eases Mei Shin's symptoms. The game implies that Mei Shin suffers from severe anxiety, brought on by the pressure from her father to perform in a televised singing competition, excel in school despite frequent absences, and her longing for family time. Inspired by her father's teachings, Mei Shin believes that making enough origami tulips will cure her illness and restore her family to its former harmony. But why didn't Mei Shin tell her father she had figured out how to calm her anxieties? Why didn't she open up about the pressures of singing and her desire to avoid competitions? According to Li Fang, Mei Shin was deeply attached to her father and loved him very much. It's likely they spent a lot of time together as a family, and as a child, she wanted nothing more than to make her parents, especially her father, happy, even at the cost of her own well-being. Mei Shin's parents, particularly her father, may have practiced an authoritarian parenting style. Unlike authoritative parenting, which balances high expectations with support, authoritarian parenting focuses on strict obedience and high demands, leaving little room for children's input. This can lead to anxiety and self-doubt in children who may equate obedience with love. It's unclear if Fung Yu was always authoritarian or if his behavior worsened as he projected his failing career onto Mei Shin. Additionally, 1980s Taiwanese culture, marked by competitiveness and traditional Confucian values emphasizing authority and obedience, likely influenced his parenting style. Coupling this with the earlier point made about the taboo surrounding mental illness, and you end up with Mei Shin, who feels trapped by her anxious thoughts, with no way out but to fold origami tulips and listen to her father, even when it ultimately meant being trapped in the bathroom for 7 days while soaking in a mixture of snakes and wine. Mei Shin's devotion ultimately led to her demise, but even if she had spoken up about her condition and how she was managing it, would her father have listened? Du Fengyu is a complex character. It's easy to resent him for his actions, yet there's also a temptation to feel sorry for him. Is he merely a product of his time? Was he a vulnerable soul, rejected by his career, deceived by a religion, and brainwashed into causing his daughter's tragic death? Could Li Fang have done more to care for their daughter? While some of these points might hold truth, they ultimately serve as excuses that Fung Yu clung to throughout the game until the player uncovers the true events. Devotion is fundamentally a game about a man named Du Fengyu experiencing extreme denial. The game could have been titled Denial, but in Fung Yu's case, his devotion is to himself. Let me explain. Fung Yu exhibited traditional patriarchal characteristics, evident in how he treated Li Fang as a housewife and saw Mei Shin as his personal prodigy to fulfill his desires of raising a successful daughter. Caught up in the idolization of a perfect family, Fung Yu wrote a screenplay reflecting these ideals, persisting despite numerous rejections from screenwriting agencies. This likely hurt his pride, causing financial distress for the Du household. Despite this, Fung Yu continued to make elaborate purchases to appear wealthy, including an arowana fish, symbolizing a luxurious lifestyle in Asian culture. Fung Yu stubbornly accused Li Fang of the spending he was guilty of, thus distorting her image. Mei Shin's mental breakdown added to the turmoil, driving Fung Yu to desperation for answers. Rejecting the doctor's suggestion for psychiatric help, Fung Yu turned to mentor Heuh and the promise of Sugu Guanyin's guidance. This religion gave the illusion of choice, offering a false sense of power through self-effort. Fung Yu was likely drawn to the religion not for its beliefs, but as a vehicle to justify his efforts. In his desperation, he believed only he could cure Mei Shin. Praying to Sugu Guanyin and donating money created an environment where Fung Yu believed his self-effort could change his circumstances. In a symbolic ritual, he sacrificed his eye, tongue, and hand, believing he could reclaim Mei Shin's soul that was never lost. His delusions led him to perform a dangerous ritual, ignoring his daughter's cries and the impossibility of her surviving in a bathroom soaked in snake wine for 7 days. And yet he pressed on, believing in the religion he created for himself. Mentor Heuh and Sugu Guanyin may have exploited his vulnerabilities, but they merely surfaced Fung Yu's inherent selfishness and desire to control his destiny. In the end, he got what he wanted. In a sad and twisted way, each character achieved their object of devotion. Mentor Heuh managed to deceive everyone. Li Fang achieved her dream of returning to stardom. Mei Shin obeyed her father to the end. And Fung Yu did everything he felt was right. But was it worth it in the end? This game was heart-wrenching. Despite how you might feel about any of these characters, each of their fates ended tragically in their own way, arguably because of their devotion. This game definitely challenges the meaning behind that. It also highlights how difficult it is to navigate these complex emotions amidst raising a family, meeting societal expectations, and finding your own identity. When the things you believe in start to crumble, you find yourself wondering who you are at the end of it. What motivates you? What are your deepest fears? What is your devotion? Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. If there's anything you feel I've missed from a psychological analysis perspective, or have a different view about any of the characters, please let me know in the comments below. I'm interested to hear your take on the subject. I'm also open to hear any suggestions you have for next games I should cover. Otherwise, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next game.